Southern soap opera. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. Wolf Blitzer is on assignment. I'm Brianna Keeler. You're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We are following breaking news. The U.S. Supreme Court striking a serious blow to President Obama's legacy and impacting the campaign for his job. Tonight, the president's controversial executive actions on immigration remained blocked from going into effect. That is because the high court deadlocked on the case without a ninth justice to break the 4-4 tie. That, of course, because of the late Antonin Scalia still not being replaced. Stand by for details on what happens next and the intensifying politics surrounding the court vacancy and immigration. Also breaking, Democrats are vowing the fight over gun control isn't over after a dramatic sit-in on the House floor that lasted just over 24 hours. House Speaker Paul Ryan rejecting their demand for a vote. And in the Senate, a new test vote of a gun compromise failed to gain enough votes to prove that it could pass. In Baltimore tonight, the police officer behind the wheel for Freddie Gray's so-called rough ride has been found not guilty on all charges in his death. That includes second-degree murder. Caesar Goodson faced the most serious charges of all, 6 officers arrested in the case. And I'll be talking to one of the Democrats involved in that House sit-in over guns, Congressman Adam Schiff, standing by for that. And our correspondents, analysts, and guests, we have full coverage of the day's top stories. First, to our chief political correspondent, Dana Bash. President Obama calling the Supreme Court's deadlock on immigration heartbreaking, Dana.
That's right. Well, his executive order, for the most part, is dead, and whether it will be revived depends on what voters decide in November. And it's not just about who is the next president. It's about who that president picks to fill the vacancy on the Supreme Court that made it impossible for the 8 justices to make a real decision on whether the president's executive order was constitutional.
Raw emotion outside the Supreme Court as those gathered learned of the 4-4 deadlock that effectively ends President Obama's executive order allowing some 5 million undocumented immigrants to stay legally.
Not anymore, man. Anytime I could be deported.
At the White House, the president made no attempt to hide his disappointment.
We're going to have to make a decision about whether we are a people who tolerate the hypocrisy of the system, where the workers who pick our fruit or make our beds never have the chance to get right with the law.
The GOP House Speaker called it a victory for the Constitution.
It's a win in our fight to restore the separation of powers. Presidents don't write laws, Congress writes laws.
The fact that the president tried to use his executive authority to go around the gridlocked Congress to allow some undocumented immigrants to stay legally united Republicans in opposition, even those for immigration reform.
I agree with the idea of immigration reform. I think it's something we need. I've been very outspoken about it, but it's something that has to be sustainable coming through the House of Representatives.
All this makes the red-hot 2016 political issue of immigration even hotter. Donald Trump tweeting that the court kept us safe from executive amnesty for now, but Hillary Clinton has pledged to expand it, taking jobs from Hispanic and African-American workers. And Hillary Clinton calling the decision a stark reminder of the harm Donald Trump would do to our families, our communities, and our country.
Build that wall! Build that wall!
Trump rode to victory in the GOP primaries using opposition to illegal immigration to rally his base.
Who's going to pay for the wall? 100%.
But now, Clinton may get a political boost thanks to angry Hispanic voters eager to help elect Democrats, especially in key swing states with large Hispanic populations like Florida, Nevada, and Colorado. A national poll last month showed Clinton at 62% and Trump at 23% with registered Latino voters nationwide, a political divide that the president is clearly even more eager now to make wider.
Pretending we can deport 11 million people or build a wall without spending tens of billions of dollars of taxpayer money is abetting what is really just factually incorrect. It's not going to work.
Now, the other reality that this should put front and center for voters is how much power the next president is going to have in picking who will fill that empty 9th seat on the Supreme Court. The GOP-led Senate shows no sign of giving President Obama's nominee a vote. And this immigration decision is just one example of extremely consequential decisions, that are hanging in the balance. Until then, Brianna.
Yeah, such an issue on the campaign trail. It's only going to heat up. Dana Bash, thank you so much. Another emotionally charged political issue was front and center on Capitol Hill today, and that would be gun control. A sit-in by House Democrats ended without getting the vote they demanded, perhaps no surprise. There was a vote in the Senate to test support for a gun compromise. That fell short. CNN's Senile Fart is here now with the details. A lot of talk, but ultimately nothing really coming of it, Senile.
That's absolutely right, Brianna. A very dramatic day here on Capitol Hill, but in the end, it just didn't lead to much all around in the House. House Democrats brought to an end that 25-hour protest sit-in, and they are tonight already threatening to do another one when they return in 2 weeks after recess.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Rogers, seek recognition?
25 hours after seizing control of the House floor, the No Bill, No Break protest is taking a break.
We must never, ever give up or give in. We must keep the faith, and we must come back here on July the 5th, more determined than ever before.
Democrats who vowed not to take a break are doing just that, but promising to restart the push for new gun control measures in the wake of the Orlando terror attack.
Thank you.
And threatening to restart the sit-in on the floor after a 2-week recess.
We cannot stop until we get a bill, until the law is passed. This isn't about politics. It's not about elections. It's not about campaigns. It's about the safety of the American people.
And in the Senate, another fight. Republican Senator Susan Collins failing to move forward her bill, seen as a bipartisan compromise to prevent those on the no-fly list from buying guns.
And the House stands adjourned.
Early this morning, the Republican leadership in the House adjourned for recess, looking to draw to a close the act of defiance from Democrats in the House. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan clearly enraged.
This is the people's house. This is Congress, the House of Representatives, oldest democracy in the world, and they're just sending it into chaos.
Blasting the Democrats' tactics and questioning their intentions.
We watched a publicity stunt, a fundraising stunt, descend an institution that many of us care a great deal about. So yeah, I think it sets a very dangerous precedent.
The sit-in on the floor, live streaming on the social media accounts of members, leading to dramatic and at times contentious moments.
Suspected and known to be a terrorist, why can you get a gun, a machine gun?
Going throughout the night.
I'm cold and I'm tired and I'm hungry. But these are feelings that I'm so privileged to have because so many will never feel that again.
With protests outside and inside, lasting into the late morning.
That we shall overcome someday.
And today, Senator Susan Collins had some pretty pointed criticism for House Democrats. She said that the House sit-in, the Democratic sit-in, really, she believes, served a setback to her own efforts to garner bipartisan support around her own bill. Brianna, all of us just underscoring how heated and how divisive this issue really is. Brianna.
Senile Fart for us on the Hill. And joining me now to talk about this, one of the House Democrats who took part in the sit-in over guns. That's Congressman Adam Schiff of California. And you actually said you started about an hour in. This began spontaneously, and you were there for about 18 hours. But why did you all decide to end it?
We don't have a mechanism in the House for a filibuster, and this was really our equivalent. In the House, the majority controls everything. So if they don't want to have a vote because they don't want to have their members held accountable, they can deny a vote and have for years on these gun measures. It came to an end for now. We fully intend to resume where we left off if necessary to get that vote, and we're determined to plow forward until we do. It's just, I think, indefensible for the Speaker to somehow claim that this is antithetical to democracy when he won't allow his own members to have a vote on this.
But I was watching the response publicly, and it seemed that certainly people in your corner, they were starting to take notice of what happened, and as they started to get behind you, they were even using the hashtag no bill, no break. But it seems like there was a break, and it seems like it had been said by, I think, Nancy Pelosi, this is going to keep going till hell freezes over, but it seems like it was hell freezes over until vacation starts. Doesn't that send a bad message about the dedication of the issue?
Well, it certainly sends a bad message about the majority's dedication to dealing with the problem of mass gun violence, because it was the majority that decided they were going to gavel this down, they were going to leave town without doing any of the unfinished business of the country, including address this problem of gun violence. So we're determined to take it up when we come back into session, so we're not talking merely among ourselves. And we intend to thwart the business of the House until we can compel a vote. And I think it really is a difficult thing for the Speaker to say that this is the people's House, we respond to what the country wants. But no, I'm not going to allow members of my own party or the other party to vote on this because we're afraid of the vote.
But the optics of saying we're determined to take this up after our vacation.
Well, that was a decision that the majority made, essentially, to recess without...
Should it have been different, do you think? Is that what you're saying?
I absolutely think that the majority should have stayed in session. Whether it would be productive for House Democrats...
But I mean, Democrats decided they could have... There's nothing stopping Democrats from staying on the House floor. This was being broadcast on social media, even though the official cameras had been turned off. Why not stay? Why not say we're going to stay through our vacation because this is our commitment?
You know, that was a debate that we had and a discussion we had with our leadership. We made the decision it would be more effective, frankly, to resume this when we all return, when, frankly, there's much more pressure on the GOP to act because there are measures they want to take up. They don't want to have to answer the questions we've been raising, and we thought we'd be more effective when they return to session.
There are a lot of complaints that people have about Congress where they feel that Congress isn't in session enough and that members of Congress are very dedicated to taking their time off instead of being in Washington. Doesn't it play into that perception?
You know, that's something, frankly, that's played up whenever Congress is out of session. But frankly, from my constituents' point of view, they want to have me in my district. They want to have meetings with me, and they want me to be accessible. They don't want me spending all my time in Washington. And there's, I think, a very popular misnomer that whenever we're not voting and in session in Washington, that we're somehow on vacation. Most of us are spending that time working in our districts, going to community meetings, and being most visible to our constituents, which is something they value. But here, you know, I completely agree that when there are broad issues before the country, like gun violence, like the Zika crisis, for the majority that has a responsibility to govern, to recess with all of these things unaddressed, I think is deeply irresponsible, and I think it reflects very poorly on the Congress.
If you sort of throw up your hands, though, and say the majority isn't going to allow us to be on the floor in regular order, so we're going to take over, and then you leave, and I hear you saying you do work at home, and certainly I understand that. Being home, talking to your constituents is very important, but when it comes to this issue on guns, are you better off being at home as individuals, or are you better off being in Washington doing something that's getting a lot of attention, maybe where you could actually bring awareness to the issue than dispersing and it goes away?
No, it's a fair strategic question, but I think the decision was made, and I think probably the right decision, that over time, frankly, the attention of the press on what we were doing on the House floor would dissipate over the recess because, frankly, the Republicans wouldn't be in town. We wouldn't be able to pressure them during the course of ordinary business. So I think it made more sense, frankly, to come back strong when we resume rather than have a petering out of the protest during the next couple of weeks. But we intend to take this up again and fight for that vote. And I think what is most distressing to the country is if the Republicans think this is bad policy, as they say, they ought to have the guts to bring it up and vote it down. But they don't. They want to hide. And so literally in the middle of the night, last night, they ran off to their districts and left all this unfinished business.
What does it look like when you come back? Will we see this again?
We will see this again, and I don't know.
There will be another sit-in.
Well, there will be, if necessary, another sit-in. Yes, a continuation of this. We are insisting on getting votes on this, and we think that the majority's position is really indefensible. And what we have done is we have raised the cost to them of inaction. Right now and up until this point, they could fail to act. They could have their routine moments of silence after every mass shooting and then do nothing. They know that doing nothing now will not go unnoticed, that we will call the nation's attention to it, and they're going to have to deal with this.
This is a bill about keeping those who are on the no-fly list or the terrorist watch list from purchasing firearms, something that about 9 in 10 Americans support, including the vast majority of Republicans. We'll be talking a lot more about that and why Congress isn't acting on this issue after a quick break.
Mary buys a little lamb, one of millions of orders on this company's servers, accessible by thousands of suppliers and employees globally. But with cyber threats on the rise, Mary's data could be under attack. With the help of AT&T and security that senses and mitigates cyber threats, their critical data is safer than ever, giving them the agility to be open and secure. Because no one knows and like AT&T.
For CNN, this election is the big story.
People are really hungry for the meaning behind the numbers.
The CNN Politics app is intended to give consumers the sense of what's happening right now in the presidential election and using data to tell that story.
CA Technologies provides API management software and the analytics capabilities to allow CNN to tell its story in a way that people really haven't seen before.
Beyond has a natural grain-free pet food committed to truth on the label. When we say real meat is the first ingredient, it is #1. And we leave out corn, wheat, and soy. For your pet, we go beyond.
The big Hilton World Sale is on. Honors members save up to 25% on brands like Hampton, Doubletree, Hilton Garden Inn, and Waldorf Astoria. So stop clicking around. Book direct at Hilton.com. Now that's satisfaction.
The new Atkins Lift Protein Bar is packed with 20 grams of whey protein and keeps carbs and sugar in check. Steady energy? Yes. Sugar carb crash? No. And now you can also fuel up with new Atkins Lift Protein drinks.
Geico Motorcycle. Great rates for great rides.
Real is touching a ray. Amazing is moving like one. Real is making new friends. Amazing is getting this close. Real is an animal rescue. Amazing is over 27,000 of them. There is only one place where real and amazing live. SeaWorld. Real amazing.
Attention, if you've had an IVC filter placed in you to prevent blood clots, the FDA warns these filters can fail and cause serious injuries and even death.
If you have a blood clot filter, you are at serious risk. Call the Goldwater Law Firm right now.
If you have a blood clot filter, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Call us right now.
If you or a loved one has a blood clot filter, call 1-800-204-9300. That's 1-800-204-9300.
It's the mid-year clearance sale at Lumber Liquidators. Get incredible deals on beautiful top-quality floors like pre-finished hardwood from $149, bamboo from $149, North American and European laminate from 49 cents, and 24-month special financing. Hurry, sales going on now at Lumber Liquidators.
After 50 years of designing cars for crash survival, Subaru has developed our most revolutionary feature yet. A car that can see trouble and stop itself to avoid it. When the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety tested front crash prevention, nobody beat Subaru models with eyesight. Not Toyota, not Ford, or any other brand. Subaru Eyesight, an extra set of eyes every time you drive.
Closed captioning brought to you by Gum Brand. Your gums matter.
You can have healthy, white teeth and still have gum disease.
Use Gum Brand for healthy gums, soft picks, Proxibrush cleaners, flossers, and dental floss. Gum Brand.
We are back now with Congressman Adam Schiff of California talking about the end of the Democrats' sit-in to protest inaction on gun violence legislation. So looking at that, talking about, I guess, where Congress is going to go on this, because the polls are staggering when you're talking about almost 9 out of 10 Americans, and that includes Republicans, who agree with keeping people who are on the no-fly list, on the terrorist watch list, from purchasing weapons. But you actually feel that there could be some movement on guns, which I find surprising. Why do you think that?
You know, there's a broadly held sense within the Democratic caucus that this time really feels different in a way that even Newtown didn't, in the sense we're hearing from our constituents and a lot of other people around the country who suddenly want to really engage on this issue. They want something done. They're deeply fed up. They're deeply worried. And this just feels like one of those tipping points. And as you say, there are a few issues that are contentious like this, where 90% of the public is on one side. That is almost an insurmountable level of public opinion for even the NRA. But whenever you find a big gulf between what the public wants and what the public gets out of Congress, you can usually find a very powerful special interest at the heart of it. And here, this is the NRA. And I think there's a real conviction that if the NRA can be beaten on this issue, they can be beaten on other issues like universal background checks. And so there's a seminal significance to this issue of keeping people on the no-fly list from being able to buy weapons.
I want to talk to you now about some of the other inaction that we've seen, which was the Supreme Court today splitting on whether to uphold President Obama's executive action on immigration reform. It means a lower court now has the say, and they say that he shouldn't have gone as far as he did. Today I heard President Obama saying that people should be mobilized by this, they should be alarmed by it, but then he also seemed to say, don't worry too much, this isn't completely eviscerating my plans. So which is it?
Well, it's a tremendous setback. I think for millions of people around the country, it puts a big shadow over their continued livelihood, their ability to stay with their families. So I think it's a tremendous setback.
They should be alarmed by it,
but it also shows the significance of leaving this Supreme Court seat vacant, which is among the most irresponsible acts of the Congress in recent memory. This is a co-equal branch of government, and we're treating it like some judicial backwater that is a political plaything. It's really unthinkable, and every day now when the court issues an opinion, we see the deep consequences, but it will also raise the stakes again in the presidential election, because it will be determinative of issues like this one, whether those kind of executive orders can go forward.
Congressman Schiff, thanks so much for being with us. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Brianna.
your time. And just ahead, as Donald Trump works to rebound from some campaign setbacks, he's heading overseas and he's making waves again. And we'll look at the not guilty verdict for the police van driver who faced the most serious charges in the death of Freddie Gray. What does it mean for the officers still awaiting trial?
There's a sound a ball makes when it catches nothing but net. Everyone loves that sound, that precision. At GMC, we get that. Nothing separates the men from the boys like nothing but net. This is the precision of professional grade.
Now pay no interest for 5 years, plus get $750 purchase bonus cash on a 2016 GMC Acadia. GMC, we are professional grade.
Meet Go Dogs, the fastest food truck in Brooklyn. Meet Mylanta tonight. It's also fast, but unlike Go Dogs, it makes heartburn after dinner history. New Mylanta tonight, faster than heartburn.
Don't go to Paris. Live in Paris. When you Airbnb, you have your own home. So live there, even if it's just for a night.
I'm only in my 60s. I've got a nice long life ahead, big plans. So when I found out Medicare doesn't pay all my medical expenses, I looked at my options. Then I got a Medicare supplement insurance plan.
If you're eligible for Medicare, you may know it only covers about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. The rest is up to you. Call now and find out about an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, it helps pick up some of what Medicare doesn't pay. and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs.
To me, relationships matter. I've been with my doctor for 12 years. Now I know I'll be able to stick with him.
With these types of plans, you'll be able to visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. Plus, there are no networks and virtually no referrals needed. So don't wait. Call now and request this free decision guide to help you better understand Medicare and which AARP Medicare supplement plan might be best for you. There's a wide range to choose from.
We love to travel, and there's so much more to see. So we found a plan that can travel with us anywhere in the country.
Join the millions of people who have already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP, an organization serving the needs of people 50 and over for generations. Remember, all Medicare supplement insurance plans help cover what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. Call now to request your free decision guide and learn more about the kinds of plans that will be here for you now and down the road.
I have a lifetime of experience, so I know how important that is.
What is a successful first date?
We want to see each other again.
So you know what? We should try it again.
Want to go on a second date?
Match has led to more second dates than any other dating app.
I like the second date part.
I could see myself downloading it.
Match. Start for free today.
CNN Tomorrow. Go inside with Morgan Spurlock.
I'm alive. Here we are. We're on the surface of Mars. See, it's beginner's luck.
Yeah. See what Morgan turns inside out. Morgan Spurlock, Inside Man, tomorrow at 10 on CNN.
The local wine shop, a place where people go to get confused, frustrated, and end up picking pretty labels instead of great wine. Well, now there's a better way. At tastingroom.com, America's #1 personalized wine club. Every bottle is selected based on your personal wine profile, and fewer than 1 in 50 wines makes it through our rigorous selection process. We're so sure that you'll love our wines that every bottle is backed by our total satisfaction guarantee. The Huffington Post calls Tasting Room the first wine club to get it right. Get amazing wines at incredible prices, selected just for you, delivered right to you. Go to tastingroom.com and receive your exclusive tasting kit of world-class wines. Once you get your kit, taste, rate, and build your personal profile one sip at a time. It's a no-brainer. Great wine without the guesswork, backed by our total satisfaction guarantee. Go to tastingroom.com, enter promo code CORK9, and get your exclusive tasting kit, a $40 value for just $6.95. Tastingroom.com, code CORK9. Tastingroom.com. Taste, rate, enjoy.
The Hunt with John Walsh. New episodes Sundays at 9 on CNN.
Tonight, it's not payback time for Donald Trump. The presumptive Republican presidential nominee says he won't be reimbursed for the $46 million that he's loaned his campaign. As Trump works to beef up his fundraising for the general election, his continued work for his corporation is raising some eyebrows. CNN's Phil Mattingly has more on this. Trump heading overseas, Phil.
Yeah, that's right, Brianna. And that in and of itself isn't exactly rare for the party's presumptive nominee, but it's why Donald Trump is going to Scotland that is raising new questions among top GOP leaders, a group that in many ways is still very wary of the man primary voters have chosen to lead their party.
Hillary Clinton, and as you know, most people know, she's a world-class liar.
Fresh off his most scathing attack on Hillary Clinton, the best fundraising stretch of his campaign, and an internal shakeup well received inside an increasingly uneasy party.
Yesterday's speech went a long ways to reigniting the members as well as the party faithful. Yesterday's speech was very important in making that pivot.
Donald Trump is leaving the country, heading to Scotland, not to meet with world leaders or burnish his foreign policy credentials. Instead, it's for the reopening of a golf course, Trump's Turnberry Resort, a course Trump, in a 2014 interview with Golf Digest, called a, quote, super trophy and one of the great pieces of art. An unorthodox move again raising questions inside the GOP. Yet another sign that this isn't a traditional campaign and Trump is far from a traditional candidate. Trump's trip coming as a new CNN ORC poll finds that nearly 70% of voters surveyed say Trump should step down from his role atop the Trump Organization as he runs for president. And the reception in Scotland will be far from celebratory, Residents, angered by Trump's bare-knuckled business strategy, protesting his visit, even flying Mexican flags to mock his arrival. The Clinton campaign also hitting Trump ahead of the trip with a new web video tonight. But for Trump, the visit underscores an asset viewed by aides as central to his campaign, his business empire.
I built an amazing business that I love.
And it comes as his campaign tries to turn a corner, meeting a week plagued by an anemic fundraising report by raising more than $11 million since Tuesday, according to campaign officials. Trump's top campaign aide, Paul Manafort, also mounting a detailed and organized delegate operation designed to undercut any efforts to oust Trump at the convention. With Trump today floating the unorthodox possibility of naming his cabinet during the campaign.
I think I might be inclined to do that. I don't think that's that unusual, though. That's been done before, hasn't it, you?
No, I don't think we've ever had a cabinet member named. There was a hint that Colin Powell was going to be W as Secretary of State, but it was just a hint. I mean, if you appear with these guys...
Well, did they wait till after the election and then
yes.
cabinet? No, really?
Yes.
All as Hillary Clinton continues to mount attacks on Trump's business resume.
You might think that because he has spent his life as a businessman, he'd be better prepared to handle the economy. Well, it turns out he's dangerous there, too.
And Brianna, you mentioned that Trump announced today he will not be reimbursing himself for the $46 million he has loaned his campaign. That's not a small thing, and here's why. Top GOP donors, the very donors, Brianna, Trump desperately needs right now, made it clear to RNC officials, I'm told, that if Trump ever wanted their money, he had to make clear that he would use none of it to pay himself back. Now, that's exactly what he did today. Another important step as he tries to make up that very, very steep cash deficit to Hillary Clinton. Brianna?
Phil Mattingly, thank you so much. And I want to bring in now CNN senior Washington correspondent Jeff Zeleny, CNN senior legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin. We also have Washington Post assistant editor David Swerdlick and CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger. So what do you think of, Gloria, first I want to ask you about Donald Trump talking about his cabinet, about saying, you know what, I'm actually going to roll this out long before the election. Obviously, that would make his cabinet members targets months ahead of when they normally would be. Is this, do you think, ignorance about the process, or is this him trying to say, look, I have serious people who will be a part of my administration?
I think he's trying to kind of beef up his political resume, you know, if you will. And we don't know whether he's definitely going to do it or not. He seemed to think like it sounded like a good idea. Wasn't quite sure if anybody had done that previously. But, you know, for him, on the one hand, look, he might say, okay, these are the really smart, talented, experienced people who I want to put in top policy positions. And when you haven't been in government service before and you don't have a government record, you know, that might be an advantage. But as you point out, there is a real flip side to this, which is that these people also become targets and their credentials are looked at and pored over by those of us in the media, and the critics can pounce on them. And so, you know, it's double-edged for him, and he'll have to make a decision about that just the same way he makes a decision, in fact, about picking his vice president and when he lets that out of the bag, right? And because anybody who is attached to any candidate, Donald Trump or anyone else, is going to be picked over. And, you know, in this case, it could be an asset, but we just don't know.
Do you think, David, there's enough to gain for Donald Trump to do this?
Well, yes and no. I agree with Gloria that he's going to experience now the press picking over his selections, his potential selections. It sort of gives him a chance to change the conversation from the last few weeks, where he's been criticized as not as serious of a candidate as he needs to be, including by members of his own party. So I think this is a way for him to try and pivot. But down the road now, he's going to be judged based on some of these selections.
Did we get the sense that this was something he was trying to purposefully roll out, or was this, do you think, David, just something, and I want you all to weigh in on this, or was this something that just sort of seemed to
It seemed to just
appear
pop out of his mouth. Now, but just think about like one specific example. Chris Christie is obviously a big supporter of his, obviously a former U.S. attorney, a candidate for attorney general. Suppose he said tomorrow, my attorney general is going to be Chris Christie. Chris Christie is currently under investigation by the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey. How can you say that your future Attorney General is someone who may be the boss of the person
or
who's
any
leading?
position?
I mean, that's the kind of complexity that would occur if he started to name people. And by the way, I'm not sure the people who he'd want to name would be dying to have their names out there for 8 months just being targets themselves.
Especially because everything Donald Trump says now going forward, every one of those people would have to comment every day if they agree with this statement or that statement or whatnot. I think it was very spontaneous. Hugh Hewitt was giving a long interview, and it was kind of a back and forth on things. It seems like most things not all that planned out in advance by Donald Trump.
What do you think, Jeff, about his trip to Scotland? Because you have, it's pretty interesting, the CNN ORC poll where 7 in 10 voters say, you know, he should really step down from his business interests if he's going to be the president. That should be his business interest. Do you think there will be enough pressure on him to do that, or what would that look like moving forward?
We hear him talk so much about polls. I would love to hear his reaction to this. We may hear it. You know, he likes to react to polls. But look, I think that first of all, he already has relinquished a lot of his day-to-day activity of his businesses to his daughter and his sons in one respect. So he's not as in control of the empire as he was before. But beyond that, no, I don't think he'll relinquish it. This is who he is. This is his brand. This is it. You know, he loves to appear at his places. So the real question is, though, Republicans wonder, why isn't he in battleground states more? He has, you know, seized the nomination, secured the nomination, and he has not traveled nearly as much as they had hoped he would. Giving that speech this week in New York City, go out to a battleground state. So that's why they wonder, can he sort of comfortably leave Trump Tower? You can't win a general election from Fifth Avenue in New York City. You just can't.
Some of the rules haven't applied to him, but this one, you think it does or no?
Well, talking about the battleground states, you know, he gave a speech, it was either last week or the week before, in Virginia, small crowd, went to a state that's a solidly red state like Texas, big crowd. I think Trump partly likes to have that sense that he's generating big support out on the campaign trail. Republicans have criticized him, right, for going to Scotland right in the middle of ramping up for the convention. But as you say, being a businessman is part of his brand, his image, who he is. I don't think he wants to relinquish that. And I think he wants to remind people, hey, this is who I am. I'm not like all the rest.
Can I make the trivial point that Donald Trump, whatever else you think of him, is correct that Turnberry is a legendary golf course?
Okay.
And his golf course is supposedly terrific as well. We can return to our regularly scheduled program.
Okay, thank you for weighing in on that.
Can I just say something on the business thing? You know, he has criticized Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation and the business that is, charging that, you know, the Clintons have profited from the Clinton Foundation. If he remains actively involved, imagine this, as President of the United States, I think the questions of conflict, even as a candidate, but more so once you're elected, obviously, the questions of conflict really become large, particularly in terms of tax laws and all the rest. You know, when you're in real estate, when you're in branding, whatever it is, anything that portends to business is going to affect you, by the way, whether you run it or whether your children run it. You know, there are going to be questions raised about that constantly.
Final question to you, Jeff. The Trump campaign is trying to keep in good contact with delegates. Clearly, they want to stop any disgruntled delegate from maybe not having a person to talk to on the campaign and then going to the convention and sort of pursuing this Stop Trump movement. Are they really worried about a coup?
They're not worried about a coup necessarily, but they don't want the optics of a coup. That would be almost as bad as an actual coup. So he was very good at calling people on the phone, these delegates, directly. So Paul Manafort is keeping a good hand on that. I think that it's not, you know, the chances are slim of something happening. But they want to contain the optics of any type of incursion right before this convention.
We'll see if they can do that, Jeff. Jeffrey, David, Gloria, thank you so much to all of you. And just ahead, the driver of the police van in which Freddie Gray died is declared not guilty on all counts. Will any of the officers in this case be convicted? Plus, sex, politics, and scandal in the Deep South. We have stunning new details on the problems facing Alabama's governor.